Let's make sure that you're not going in the hole with what you're
Mhm.
doing. You have to take into account not just the amount and the cost that's going into your ingredients, but of course the time that you're putting into this. Because, like, I think we brought it up a few episodes ago about, I heard somebody said it took them 8 hours to make a cake. Well, it depends on if it's a wedding cake. I mean, if you're making a cake that's not going to get your money back after 8 hours of time, what is an hour of time? How much are you worth? And I think that's really key, because the amount, like, you're sitting here talking to me while you're which is great, and you're freeze drying stuff, which isn't really, not, it's not a lot of work. But during that time while you were cutting up, vegetables, that takes time, right?
Mhm.
So add it all up and
Mhm.
make sure that you're not undercharging, because you might find this may not be worth it for you if you can't get your, that's why I say don't get so many ingredients and make it easy for yourself. Start real simple, with some one or two really great items that are going to be popular, and
Mhm.
that won't take you forever to make. Welcome to the Charcuterie and Cottage Biz podcast. Ready to turn your boards, bakes, and bites into real profits? Then you're in the right place. We're your hosts and real life sisters, Chef Andrea and digital marketer Patty. We're excited to dish out fast, actionable tips and advice to help you price smarter, market bigger, and grow your food business online. From passion to profits, your recipe for success begins right here. Now let's start the show. Hey, I bet you thought you lost us. We've been gone. Too much
Yeah,
vacationing. Welcome back,
I know,
everyone, to the
right?
Charcuterie and Cottage Biz podcast. How are you, sister? You've been traveling. It's been Thanksgiving. I know it's been a while for those of you who wait for us. And we're sorry, it's the holiday season.
Yeah, just busy, busy, busy doing stuff,
It's
family
okay.
stuff,
Yeah,
everything.
it's all right. Hopefully everyone else is. I was thinking about, I have to go sing tonight, and singing some Christmas music. We've been learning a whole bunch of new songs. For those of you who don't know, I'm a competitive barbershop singer, and we have a little show tonight for the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce, actually. And so we have to go down and sing some Christmas music. But before we got on, it was humming some Christmas music. Uh, it's the holiday season. And that's not one of the songs, but that's one of my favorites. Santa Claus is coming around. Anyway, happy holidays, everybody. If you're listening to this in about 6 months, happy middle of the year, whenever you listen
Yeah.
to this podcast.
Well, we
Um,
have to say happy anniversary to ourselves
yes, we
for the
do.
podcast in the couple of weeks that we haven't done anything. We hit our 1 year anniversary of doing the podcast. So thank you,
Yay.
everybody.
Cue the
I have not looked at it. We need to put in some canned
cue the
clapping and
clapping. Yeah,
roaring.
we always have canned clapping at the beginning, but I'll have my
Oh, do
VA
we? We
put
need
some
to
more
add
in.
another one.
Yay, it's
So,
party season. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so that
so
and
thank you,
when we
everyone.
started doing the podcast, we really didn't know what we were doing. I still feel like we still kind of don't know what we're doing, but we're better at not knowing what we're doing. People love our podcast, I think, because we really are flying off the cuff.
Well, kind of. I mean, we do
But
plan.
November 17th was our 1 year of our very first podcast. So that's exciting. We're glad we're still here. People are watching us. Are on the top
Listening.
75% or something like that of all podcasts. So that's exciting.
Yay,
So,
for, well, at least for the food podcasts out there. Yeah, we're
yeah.
excited. I mean, could we be growing more? Sure, but I just think we're in a weird niche that I don't think a lot of people know that there's podcasts out here for this kind of thing, partly
Mhm.
because there's not many. And so maybe people just don't realize it. But anyway, if you are listening to us and you know anybody who could benefit from learning and listening and enjoying and laughing and just being with us, that would be
Mhm.
awesome. Share the word. The more you spread it, the more other people can get help, especially in today's world. As Andrea and I were talking, we're thinking after the first of the year people are going to start really buckling down if things don't change a little bit with our economy, and not making them, unfortunately, not making enough money in their day jobs, whatever those are. Maybe you're listening to us because you want to get out of that grind, which is what Andrew and I both did, at least with regard to starting our own businesses back, whenever we both did that. And
Hmm.
I need to apologize because I have been fighting off Andrew didn't even know this. I've been fighting off a cough literally for 3 weeks. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, tell everybody what you've been doing so I can go cough for a second.
Well, I went to San Diego and hung out there for a while. Then I came home and then I packed up and I went to Idaho. So, both family related. I went to Idaho for Thanksgiving. I made a massive turkey, 18
Mm,
pounder, spatchcocked it, cut it in half, and it was fabulous.
yay.
So, yeah, so
All
that's
right.
about it. And I got home yesterday, and now I have 2 days, and I'm getting ready for a big show. I
A
sound
big
like
show.
big show. Who is that?
That's yeah. I mean, I think it's so interesting that you do these. You're doing craft, artsy, fartsy type shows,
Mm-hmm.
but you sell food related items. Some of it is food, some of it's, but it's not like fresh food necessarily, like come up, eat it, and grab it, go walk away and eat necessarily. But
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who haven't listened to us for very long, Andrea sells some really cool
I
specific type
yeah.
things that she can sell and people take
I
and give
sell, well,
gift and
as everybody knows, I'm a chef and or in my professional life, that's how I was trained. That's what I did for 25 years. And then I got burnt out and here I am, a few years later doing dried foods mostly, my own seasoning mixes, which I know a lot of people do those at different shows, but these are, it's kind of hard to explain what they are. But the seasoning mixes and the biggest seller that I have on my table is my soups.
hmm
So I do dried soup mixes that you mix with just a few ingredients. Sometimes some of them are just water, some you might have to add tomatoes. But I have 6 different flavors of soups and I originally started packaging them in the glass jars. You know how everybody, that old school way of like layering them and putting them
yeah.
in glass jars and putting the little fabric on top. They look awesome, but they are not practical for dragging around to shows, especially because I'm alone most of the
hmm
time.
yeah.
And carrying those heavy glass jars is a pain in the neck. So I switched over to these mason jar looking bags and they stop people in their tracks. I still
hmm
layer them the same way that I would if they were in glass jars. All the recipes are my own. I even dehydrate my own vegetables because I didn't like, I was ordering vegetables dehydrated from, there's a lot of different companies you can get them from in bulk, and they taste weird. I don't
Do
know if
they?
it's the factory that they just don't taste, they taste
Preservatives?
no, and they don't. They say they don't have any. I don't know what goes on there. All I know is I don't like the way it tastes, and so I bought a dehydrator on an auction site, and now I dehydrate all my own vegetables. In fact, I got a big old batch of carrots going right now.
So how
So
long
I
does
got
that
home
take?
from.
I mean, this is a great segue into what we're going to talk about
Sure.
today, as far as, setting up and, just starting a cottage food business. And,
Hmm.
even for those that are listening to us for charcuterie business, you might be thinking, well, maybe, if you're struggling or you're not getting enough business or you want to get more, the cottage food business is a great way to
Hmm.
do it and it's way easier. So we're going to talk about that. But so now back to the dehydration, which I think is really cool that you're doing that. Give us the process on that. I'm kind of curious how that works. So you put, I've never seen you do it actually.
Right.
So
I know, and I really should do some videos, and I think I will. I think I
yeah.
will going forward. I do have big, big shows coming up the next few months. So I'm taking a deep breath because I just took 2 to 3 months off. And so now I'm trying to get to business. But
hmm
anyways, when I bought it, I didn't know what I was doing. It comes with a book and you read the book and of course you can get online and look for stuff on YouTube or TikTok or wherever you or just read things and you get really like I don't know about other people, but I get overwhelmed by the amount of information you get off the internet.
Mm.
So eventually you just have to, just like anything else that I've done, and I keep telling people, just go do it. I just started putting stuff, following what people were telling me and using my own instincts. And So chopping the vegetables up and stuff. I used to chop them up, which was ridiculous, and now I think back to that, how dumb that was. I chopped them up by hand, and it would take forever, and I would be exhausted, and my hands would hurt. As good as I am, I am one of those chefs that can literally, slice away, and not even look at what I'm doing. But that amount of prep work was worse than any stir fry I've ever done.
Mm,
So I eventually started, I'm like, what am I doing? Started putting it in food processors and figured out how big they get when they
shrunk.
rehydrate, and all of that stuff has to be taken into consideration. How long
Oh,
are they going to take, and how watery is the product? Because celery might take a little bit longer because it has more water than carrots, and carrots is a little more denser, so it's got a different temp. So eventually you just figure it out, but you never figure it out if you just don't go do it.
mm.
And so now I've got it down to what works best for me and how fast it can be done. Nothing is fast. So
No.
dehydrating is a little bit, it's
So you
like
cut up the
watching water
carrots.
boil.
For instance, you have carrots going. They all somewhat the same size. You have to cut them up ahead of time
Hmm.
before you put them in there.
Hmm.
So like how many carrots can you stick in the particular dehydrator you have, and then how long does it, and what sizes are the slices? They're just like soup size?
Well, they're not, yeah, they're chopped up. I pulse them in my food processor.
Okay.
So they're just super small,
Okay.
because when they dry up, they're going to get smaller. And I want them to be, like not big chunks
Yeah.
for. I know that a lot of vegetable soups have that, but in my case, the carrots and the celery and the onions are really just meant for the flavor, not so much as the substance of the soup.
Hmm.
So it's helping to create the broth that
Yeah.
is going with it. And so you're going to add the water and all that stuff and rehydrate it as it cooks. So it's all relative to the type of soup you have. But I made all of my soups so that the carrots and the celery and the onions are all the same size. That's how they're developed.
Yeah.
And again, it takes practice. I mean, you got to try things. You got to look at a recipe and go, that one makes sense, and then work with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that I made these recipes from scratch. There is one or two that I did, but the rest of them are coming from other recipes that I found, and I just worked with them and made them the way I wanted them
Mm-hmm.
and wanted them to taste. And then the way they had to be packaged, that has to be considered. I do layer mine, so it's a pretty soup, it's not just thrown into a cellophane bag and here you
Yeah,
go.
well, yeah.
It is a beautiful
Which
presentation,
is a
and that
huge
was
part of your sales and
right.
marketing, right? So,
Yeah, it
yeah.
stops people in their tracks.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way when they see these soups in their baskets, and they can also smell them because I do samples at the
Well, and I
markets.
think the key is that, I mean, for the few times that I've been at your events, when you've been there, the people come up and they're very impressed with the fact that there's not a lot of preservatives in them, and
There's
they're
none.
natural, and
Yep.
that's huge because
Hmm.
people don't want or have problems with that kind of stuff. And you can make them, carb free if you want it, I guess, or I don't know if you do that
Sure.
because it'd be kind of hard, but
Yeah.
uh, you can make them so that they help people that have certain health conditions. Although you're not claiming that necessarily as, hey,
No.
because you don't want to risk the fact that, hey, they can have
Right.
gluten,
And
because it's not in a
in the
gluten-free
cottage,
environment that you're making those necessarily. But yeah.
for sure. And in the cottage world, you kind of want to leave that disclaimer open where, you have the labeling on there that says this is not a commercially produced product. It's
Right.
not commercially made. So the kitchen is not, could have nuts, it could have this, it could have that, whatever.
Yeah.
Just to make people aware of the allergen
Right.
possibilities,
Right.
which we're going to talk about that
Yeah, in
as we
fact,
go
let's
down the
take a
list.
step back and talk a little bit about what exactly a cottage food is really. And what exactly is it? Basically, you can legally make and sell food from home. Now,
Mhm.
the key is it's not everything,
Mhm.
and it's not the same in every state, county, etc. So again, we can't stress enough, do your research, but we're going to talk about that and how to get some research done so you know what you're allowed to do. But what we do know is that every single state, I believe, in the United States for sure, I don't know all about Canada, but I believe in Canada as well. And then, I don't know about other countries, but we're going to start researching that. Um, that it is legal. In fact,
Hmm.
you were just talking about going down to visit our brother down in Florida, and even though here in a lot of states you have to get like a cottage food license or certificate, not every state requires it. In fact, you were just saying down in Florida, you were doing your research because you were going to go visit down there, right? And maybe
Yeah,
hit up a
I
few
was
markets.
surprised a few days ago. I was looking into this very specific place near his house. He lives in the middle part, the retired part of Florida. And we went to this really cute farmer's market. I was like, I really want to be a part of that.
Hmm.
And anyway, I looked up to see what the laws to get the cottage license and what I had to go through to get their cottage license so I'd be legal in the state.
Yeah.
And they don't require one. They
They
do
don't
have
require a
a
license, but there are
right,
laws
they don't require
surrounding
a
it, correct?
license, but
Yeah.
they're right.
There are
It's just like
rules.
any other thing. There are requirements to sell your home-based foods, which is
Hmm.
mostly labeling, packaging,
Yeah. We're going to
that
talk
kind of
about that.
thing.
Yeah.
There's certain things you have to follow. And then, of course, the food list of what you can make and sell,
Right.
which changes again. We're going to keep stressing this and we're going to drive people nuts with the whole repeating it, but we're not, you have to check your local laws. And
Yeah.
most places will not also, they will not let you, most states will not let you sell outside of your own state. So you can't, you in theory shouldn't be shipping them outside of your individual states. So it just depends. All the laws are always different. But in
Right.
this
Because
case, it was surprising that I didn't have to file anything regarding the Florida laws, but I did have to obviously label where I made the stuff. And so I would have to make it at my brother's house and at our brother's house. And, so I can confirm that it was all done within Florida, which is fine.
within the rules. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's another thing because some of the rules, some of the laws state it has to be done in your residence, in that
Hmm.
kitchen. Again, it's based on what every different state requires, but you can't be like, going to a neighbor's house and doing it there because you're signing paperwork and signing this license that says it's happening in your kitchen. Some states can also do, I guess, surprise visits in your kit at your house. If you
Hmm.
know it, again, I mean, I've never heard of it happening,
I
but
haven't.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
it can happen. So, but some states are a lot more lenient on what you're allowed to sell. So, in most states, what I understand, because we don't live everywhere, we can talk about what we pretty much know, but most of the states are going to allow you to make like baked goods, depending on what's in the baked goods, because you can't like have cheese in many places, right? Because it's a perishable food item, or
Hmm.
buttercream kind of thing because it's perishable, those kind of things. You got to watch out for that. But baked goods are usually allowed in most of the states, right? Like
Hmm. Like
rolls,
cookies. Hmm.
cookies, yeah, cakes, I guess, depending on what kind of frosting you're using, if you're using that.
Brownies.
Uh, yeah, brownies, scones. Yeah, again, it's the ingredients are going to really come into play here, and dry mixes, spices, like you said. But not every state's going to be like the Wild West of Arizona, where here, as many of you have heard, we can pretty much sell anything we want here as long as it doesn't have alcohol and marijuana in it, for the
Hmm.
most part. And you went, at least with regard to Arizona, we go down and I spent what? I didn't spend any money to get the license. I just went and applied online to the health department here that handles it. And actually, I'm going to for those of you who are listening, I do have a new AI chat prompt that I'm going to give you. So stick around. I'm going to give you the link that you can go and get it. It's free. So that you can do the research in your area and see, if you don't know where to start, it's a starting point for you. I mean, you still need to go do your research, but we'll give you a starting point so that you can just, go in there and put in the kind of food you think you want to sell and the state that you're in and maybe the county. You can put in specifics and see how much it'll give you, but it'll get you started. I'm going to give you the URL link here because I'm going to make you listen to this podcast before I give it to you. Because I think we got more info to tell you. I don't want to just wander off. But anyway, so depending on what, but here in Arizona, one of the reasons we got into the charcuterie business, which by the way, I had put in our group a very successful event that I'd had a few weeks ago at a private event for our charcuterie cart. And so, if you're not part of our group and all that, make sure that you join that. Just go to Facebook and look up charcuterie and cottage food biz success, and you'll find it. But bottom line is we can do that here and we can do perishable food in Arizona, but in most states you can't, which means if it needs to be refrigerated or you have to, just basically keep it cold, I guess, right? For the most part,
Hmm.
meats, cheeses, things like that are going to be a problem in most states. But again, check your laws. So with regard to your dry mixes, though, those are, as an example, something that you can sell as a cottage food item. But there are things you have to do to that packaging and what you have to do in order to sell it, right? But you can't just like go to the event and mix it up for them right there and then, right? You're
Mm-mm.
saying it has
Yeah.
to be done. And what else are the requirements that you need with regard to that? Hey friends, it's Patty here. Before we get back into the episode, I've got something really tasty for you. If you're dreaming about starting or growing your home-based food or charcuterie business, we've put together a whole bundle of free resources just for you, including calculators, marketing guides, AI prompts, our free Facebook group, everything you need to get yourself up and running as fast as possible. Oh, and don't miss our free webinar training on how to launch your business the smart way. You can grab it all at grazingbiz.com/resources. That is grazingbiz.com/resources. Oh, and if you're loving the value we bring you each week, do me a huge favor. Make sure to follow the show, hit us up with a 5-star rating, and share this podcast with someone who needs a little nudge to start their own food business journey. Your thoughtful follow and ratings help move our little podcast up the ranks of podcast land and gives us even more incentive to keep providing you even more food business success tips, advice, and resources. Thanks so much. We appreciate you. Alrighty, let's dive back into the rest of the podcast.
Well, every state's going to have their labeling requirements. First of all, you've got the food requirements, which are, again, we're going back to that. So
Mm-hmm.
look that up, make sure that you can make whatever it is you want to make. They usually give you a list, and then the labeling, they'll tell you exact wording of what they want you to put on there, which is something, like I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head, but this was produced in a non-commercial
Right,
kitchen
right.
and there may be allergens available or whatever. There's a certain label that they have that they tell you have to put on there, and then of course you have to put in the place where you live, not necessarily your address. Some places do require your actual address, and other places,
Mm-hmm.
a way to contact you. So in my case, I have my website listed on every single label that I have. So if somebody has a problem, they can reach me on the website. And if the state needs to get a hold of me because
Yeah,
something happens, they can reach me on my website because I prefer not to keep my phone number and my personal address on there
yeah.
because people are weird, as we
Or
know.
whatever they're requiring that you just make sure that you have, because I know here in
Hmm.
Arizona, if you look it up, it'll tell you exactly what you're supposed to put on that label, which
Right.
obviously includes the ingredients, which I think is
Yeah,
important. You've
and the
got to put the
ingredient.
ingredients on there. I looked it up recently and they did, you and I talked about this on a previous podcast, but they do require that the ingredients get on there with the most ingredients at the top to the least
Hmm.
amount ingredients. But you got to put everything. And if you're like, what were we talking about? If you're baking and you throw in an Oreo cookie, you've got to get all the ingredients from that Oreo cookie
Hmm.
onto the label. And then there's the labeling, like getting the label. with everything on there. Because I know in being in the groups, people are like, I can't fit these labels. I don't even know how to print a label and this, that label. And we've talked about labeling before too. But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think, don't you think it's okay if you had a label that it was big like this? And, you know, you need not quite this big, but let's say it's bigger than your item. Couldn't you like string it onto it somehow? I mean,
You
I don't think
could.
maybe there's a law in some states that say you
Mm-mm.
can't do that, but seems to
No, it
me,
doesn't. It doesn't say anything about that. You could put it on a card and then punch a hole in it and tie it
yeah,
to the thing.
yeah,
Again, check with your locals,
yeah,
but I don't. We don't have that. It just says it needs to go with the product.
hmm,
So if you have to write the entire craziness of an Oreo cookie, you could make one page with just that.
yeah,
But I would try to avoid those kind of things. And the simpler you keep your ingredients, the better, anywho. I mean, that's just my personal opinion from being in a kitchen for 25 years. You just really want to keep it simple.
right,
And I don't get involved in all of that extra stuff, but I do have muffins, and my muffins are basic,
right,
bread flour, sugar, baking powder, I think is the other one. And then whether I put blueberries or, because I do dried
hmm,
blueberries and chocolate. I guess the chocolate probably I'm going to have to relabel that because I'm using semi-sweet, just Nestle chocolate pieces. And it probably has a few more things on there. I haven't made the muffins in a while. So, but then
yeah,
the other one I have is just cranberry pecans.
yeah.
So there's basically five ingredients
Yeah, I
in
think
one
the
of my
easier you
muffin
make your
mixes.
recipes, the better off you're going to be, honestly,
Hmm.
because people are going to be, oh, what is all this stuff on here? And they might get overwhelmed by your entire big list you have back there.
Hmm.
Because if you are doing Oreo cookies inside of your thing, there's got to be some preservatives and things in
Oh,
that too
sure.
that you're unaware of. All of that really should be on there.
Hmm.
But I just think, make it simple and start
Hmm.
simple. Don't like if you're going to do this, start with maybe one or two items just to see, how well it's going to go. Now, for those of you who are living in states where you're allowed to do perishable stuff, I mean, I read recently that Texas are allowing you to sell cheese now, but you can't sell meat, or maybe it's the other way around. But either way, like
Hmm.
that kind of kills a full-blown charcuterie board. But if you're allowed to now put cheese in things, great, because it is perishable or whatever. But I think just know what you're allowed to put on there, make sure that it's safe, and that, however you need to keep it refrigerated or whatever. I guess I'm bringing this up because, like, for an instance in Arizona, you and I were just talking about your this there's a local market. It's like a farmer's market every week here now that it's cooled off. And I was talking to Andrea about putting together charcuterie boxes. But realistically, the charcuterie box that I would put together has to be pre-made at home as per the cottage
Hmm.
rules versus taking the cart down and setting it up and serving the food out of the cart, because that is now not considered cottage food.
Hmm.
And everything needs to be done and made on site, basically, or in a commercial kitchen, I guess, and brought in there in order to do that, because it would not be considered a cottage food because it's not pre-packaged at home. So in most of these cases, it needs to be prepackaged at home and
Hmm.
then obviously labeled. So I could bring my charcuterie boxes down that are pre-made from home, but I can't go to the event with a cart without getting a permit to serve,
Hmm.
perishable food or food on site. That's a
Right.
whole totally different thing,
It's
right?
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, at
It's
least,
crazy.
and
And
I'm going to guess in most states
yeah.
it's similar that are allowing you to do it, but you're basically now at an open event selling things like that need to be handled differently than they would be if
Hmm.
I was just pre-packaging this stuff at home. So you and I were talking about, let's see what happens. I can make like 10 of these gift boxes that I want to sell and get them all pre-made and then bring them, say, if I wanted to your event you're coming this weekend. I was actually thinking I might throw a few in there and see what happened. But
Hmm.
and then just know that there's a difference between serving open food at an event versus you pre-packaging it at home. And I think that's the big difference too, because the cottage business requires, in most cases, I believe, to have it all prepackaged at home. And
Hmm.
again, every state's different. So, what's required in your state is going to be, totally different than what's going on in Arizona, I know, but cottage food, I think, is pretty much going to be, pretty much the
Yeah.
same when it comes to the packaging and things like that and the
Most
labeling.
people are going to do the you know, cookies and the scones, like you said, and things
Yeah.
like that, and the pre-packaging. What we're talking is the difference between food packaging and food service. So
Yes.
food service on site requires hand washing stations and all that jazz.
Lots of
It's a
things.
whole nother
Yeah.
beast and a lot more work. And I'm not saying that you couldn't make money off of it, but if you're looking to just work out of your kitchen, the best way to do it is like what you said. And now that you say that, yeah, you should put some together and bring
I
them down
might,
to
I
my,
might,
to
yeah.
bring it down to my thing, and we'll see what we can,
I'll maybe
how we
throw
can
five of them
sell
together and
those.
bring it
Yeah,
down.
to
I
see what
have,
happens.
yeah,
There's no guarantee. It's always every show, that's the other thing. Every show that I'm at seemingly I don't quite understand why, and I've given up trying to figure out why one show I might sell out of the chicken noodle and the next one I sell out of the chili, and so these are just two different items that I've got of soup mixes, and I never really know why. So what I do is make a lot of the ones that are the ones that I sample. I only sample one. I was thinking about doing two this weekend, but we'll see. But the one that I'm sampling is always the one to sell the most of.
yeah.
So that I always make a ton of them,
Well, and
which
I
I'm in the
think on that
process.
note, you also have to check to see, I'm not saying you in general, but just wherever you're at, if sampling is allowed. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same
some don't allow
situation,
it. Yeah,
right? So,
totally.
uh,
So you're giving it away, but that doesn't mean that there aren't rules required and revolving around that. They don't want anybody getting sick because you're serving up, you know, some kind of bread that's been sitting out for 3 hours or
right,
whatever it is. So
right.
just got to be careful.
Yeah, I got to be careful. So I think the first step when you're going to do this is to go to your local health department website because they're probably the one that are going to govern this most likely. So, the people that handle, and you would want to get your food handler's license, which is another thing, which I think even though some states don't require it, I do recommend that you do it just for your own well-being. Because the
Mm,
reality is you don't want to get sued and you don't want to be hurting people, even because it's still possible that you could hurt someone with some of your baked
yeah.
goods. Who knows? You just don't know. Um, I shouldn't say this, but right off the bat, I'm thinking about, like rat
Yeah.
droppings and, you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you
How are
don't
you,
know.
where are you cooking this stuff? Where are you rolling this dough out onto dirty
Yeah.
counters? I mean, if hopefully you're not one of those people that are, going, oh yeah, I didn't think about cleaning my countertop before I rolled
I
out bread.
know.
I mean, but,
I do.
I mean,
I like totally clean and disinfect my whole kitchen because I
oh,
have cats and
cats,
dogs,
yeah.
and
Yeah. But that
there's
is
no
like,
guarantee those cats aren't climbing on the counter, but they're not doing it well after I clean the crap out of the kitchen and then
right.
get everything prepared, and nobody's allowed in the kitchen after that. They get blocked out.
I do really wonder if some states have restrictions on having animals in the house. I
They
think I had
do.
actually read or heard that somewhere.
I read that
So,
somewhere too. They
yeah,
do
so
have it. You have to have a way to close your doors or something like that.
keep
Or
keep the
have, a completely separate area where you're preparing this from the animals. So
hmm
it is kind of interesting. But again, it all boils down to doing your research.
that's
We
right.
can't tell you everything. We wish we could, but we can't. So
Yeah,
you
I
got to
mean, if
find
we knew
out.
every state there was, but
Yeah.
that well, we can make you aware, which I think is the key. So
Hmm.
let's talk about marketing now. So we're making this wonderful stuff. By the way, my husband, I don't know why, at 71 years old, decides for the first time ever he's going to make a real pie from scratch. And
I
he
saw that.
killed it. He just
Yeah.
killed it. And I think what happened was for Thanksgiving. But the reason I was thinking about it was because he rolled out the dough on the counter and he actually said to me, I got to clean this counter off. What was on here? I go, I'm glad
Yeah.
you're asking. Because he's the kind that will go play golf and then come in and eat a hot dog without washing his hands.
Yeah.
So like, I always have to remind him. I don't know why. Just go. Did you wash your hands? We're gonna have tacos for dinner, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah. I mean, he did a great job. But really, what went over bigger was that he made homemade ice cream and he made the
Mm,
custard, cooked the
nice.
custard. Anyway, total change of. But I guess the point I'm making is that there's he we mar what happened was when I think about marketing is that I had done a video that night. And this is what you need to be thinking about is that hopefully you are all on social media, but that night he was doing it. This was Wednesday. And I was sitting on the other side of the counter and I pulled out my phone and took a video of him actually doing the lattice work on the pie. And I had so many people that were friends of his, friends of mine going, what? I said, yeah, I had a 71-year-old latticing his first pie ever. And we had so many people comment on that. But the point is, they noticed. And one of his friends goes, I've known you, you never made pie before, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I don't know, but it was impressive. And so that's the kind of thing you have to think about is like, are you in a position to be able to go do that kind of stuff? Because that's going to help you a ton, really easy, real fast, as soon as people see what you're doing. Not that he was going to sell his pie, although I'm half tempted to make him sell that ice cream because it was so good. And luckily we could if he wanted to. But what other places? Like you're going to be at this Briar Patch market this weekend. It's called Briar
Hmm.
Patch, but
I
it's
will be in
homemade.
Scottsdale.
Ideally, it's all homemade stuff that people make at this
Um,
event.
I don't, well, I'm going to a general vendor show, so there'll be people there with crocheted and jewelry and who
Mm-hmm.
knows what
Oh
else.
yeah, lots of jewelry.
I'm sure we'll get our share of bread makers. Sourdough is still hanging out there in the wings,
Yeah,
even after COVID. So there's still a lot of sourdough makers, and I wish people would make more. Personally, I wish, and I keep telling Patty this, I'd wish people made more cinnamon rolls. I
yeah,
don't see enough of those because I always want a cinnamon roll when I'm
yeah,
when I finally sit down and I'm ready and I'm set and it's 10 o'clock and I'm like, damn, I wish I had a cinnamon roll to go with this coffee.
yeah.
And not
Well.
one can be found in a vendor show of 200 people.
Which is crazy because when
It's
you do
crazy.
research online, which I have done a ton of it, that is one of the hottest selling
Hmm.
items. So
I
if you
know.
get a good cinnamon roll recipe, and they're making them now very similar to what you get when you're at like what's the name of that one that's at the airport all the
Cinnabon.
time? Cinnabon, which
Yeah,
is gooey
undercooked.
and sticky.
Gross.
But what they do is they actually pour cream on it before they bake them. So
Mm,
I'm not as big a fan of that
me
sticky,
neither.
like the dough doesn't taste like it's done kind of feeling, but. Um, anyway, but I would get back on the marketing track. But when you're going to market something, make sure it's something people want, obviously,
Yeah.
and that are impressed with it. And so farmers markets are going to be at this weekend, or not a farmers market, but a craft type market.
Yeah.
But farmers markets, like I was talking about up in Fountain Hills,
Hmm.
they're all over the place now. Luckily, it's starting to cool off.
Hmm.
I hear a lot about pop-ups where people are able to get, access to just, maybe a restaurant or somewhere that they can just go set up somewhere, which if you
Yeah.
get that kind of opportunity and you think that the foot traffic's going to be good, I would be worried about that personally, just randomly showing up where people weren't expecting you without a whole lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of work with no real guarantee. But
Yeah, especially with an item that you can't, like with my soups and things, I'm making a ton of them for this weekend, and if I don't sell them, they're all gonna go
they'll
to the
still,
next show, which is
yeah,
in
that's the
January, the
great
first
thing.
week of January. I'm only doing one for this Christmas just because I wasn't on the ball. And that's
Well, you
another thing
weren't
we
home.
could talk about. I wasn't on the ball to get signed up, which when you sign up for decent size events, you really need to be doing this 6 months ahead of
Plan
time
ahead.
and looking at them, if not further. Some of the big ones that I'm actually signed up for in Fountain Hills and Tucson those are 8 to 10 months out. So, and they're all vetted, which means I have to go through a jury process to get into them, which I never have any problem with. So I don't worry about it because I sell something that's so unique. But that's just another side note of what you need to be aware of if you want to go do craft shows. The local ones at your church and your schools and whatever, usually a couple weeks out is
Yeah,
fine.
should be
You know,
easy.
maybe a month.
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't think it'd
anywho,
be a problem.
this one I signed up for later. I wanted to go to, they have another one that happened last weekend, but I was in Idaho, so I couldn't do it. But point is, you got to kind of be on the ball. And in my case, I can continue because according to the Department of Agriculture, once I do a dried good and I package it up the way that I do, it's got at least a 2 year shelf life.
Yeah,
So
that's another thing. You need to
if
know
it
that.
lasts, in the case of mine, these ones that I just built, and I'm looking at them over here, that's why. The ones that I just put together, these are all going to be gone by January.
Yeah.
So if they're not gone this weekend, which would be really nice if
Yeah,
they're
that
gone
would be
this week.
nice. I mean, you're anticipating a pretty good weekend. I hope it all pans out
Yeah,
the way you're hoping.
that was my goal was $5,000 for a
Yeah,
2 day event.
yeah.
So
And
take a
because
deep
we
breath.
know, because we've been to this event many, many
Mhm.
times, it's one of the bigger ones they do, and they do them a few times a year. So we
Mhm.
know it's going to be big. So hopefully you'll get, and the weather finally is going to be nice enough that if some of this is outside,
Yeah.
which I don't, the last time I was at it, the whole thing was outside, but I think that was because it was COVID. So I
This one
think
is
they're moving
outside. It's
the whole
it's
thing.
yeah, the whole
Yeah,
thing. So the one that they do over the weekend, I know we're talking about Scottsdale, but the one that they did last weekend is inside the courtyard of a high
high
school.
school. Yeah.
This one is also at a high school, but it is entirely in the parking lot.
Okay.
So that's what I understood, but I
Okay.
haven't really heard
Then
all the
it's similar
details.
to the last time I was at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, I don't know why they don't use the actual high school courtyard if it has one. I don't know. But anyways, I'll be at Paradise Valley High School this weekend,
Yeah. Well,
and
they've got covered parking, so that's last time I was there, but that's
mm,
what they had, so I think it'll be nice. You'll be
so we'll
under
see.
covered parking. But it wasn't very big back then, but again, it was COVID time, so hopefully it's bigger this time.
Yeah.
Um, so online ordering is a whole nother thing, and I think if you don't have a website, you should have one because as Andrea knows, she goes to these events and people want to, hey, I want to order some, or I want,
Hmm.
when can I love it, I want to come back. So you got to have somewhere for people to go, and I know a lot of you are out there wondering about websites and all that. Where do you go? Well, there is a lot of online options. We are one of the premier ones that we provide these to you. And we do have websites for various different types of baked goods. When you come to our site currently, however, it's only showing charcuterie sites, but we have sites for everything. We're in the process of updating the site to show you all of the other types of websites that we offer, website templates for cakes, for rolls, Landra said, cookies, cupcakes, just whatever you want. We have templates for them. They're already done. We're just in the process of getting them out there. So I don't want to discourage you from following up with us if you're at all interested, because we will host it. We will build your site for you as well, which is a totally different take on most of these where you're just going to go in and have to figure it out on your own. Well, we're here to help you get it set up very affordably. So definitely reach out and at grazingbiz.com. You can go and actually watch a demo of what we're doing right currently for the charcuterie industry. Prices are going to be different for straight cottage. They'll be just everything. We're actually changing up how everything's working. As so, just reach out, schedule a call. I'll jump on a Zoom with you and talk to you about your goals, and we can help you figure out what it is you want to do at grazingbiz.com right now. But in the meantime, you definitely want to have some online ordering options. And so part of that, which we've kind of beat into the ground a zillion times about how do you schedule, or are you just gonna like bake once a week? Or are you gonna, have the stuff available, depending on what it is, if it's perishable. And I say perishable now when I'm talking about breads and things, those are only gonna last so long if you want them fresh anyway.
Hmm.
So you're gonna bake like, 10 loaves of your favorite, sourdough bread, and then how are you going to get rid of them? Put them on Facebook, put them on social, whatever you can do, TikTok or wherever you're at, Instagram, and let people know that you've got 10 loaves. Who wants one? Sure.
Hmm.
But if you can send them to your website so that they can order it there, How much easier would that be? Partly because you want to get them to pay in advance, you know, especially if they want special orders. What if they said to you, I want 10 loaves and I'll throw 9 of them in the freezer? You know, you can give
Right.
them a deal. They can order them all. You go bake them, you know, depending on
Mhm.
really what your business is like, I guess. But you got to decide if this is something new for you. You gotta go, well, am I gonna cook once a week or am I gonna bake once a week? Or am I gonna be available to bake every day when anytime anyone orders? So I think that's kind of the big key. What's your business gonna be like? Make sure that you've got a business plan for yourself if you're gonna start this. And I actually have, we have a lot of resources to help you with kind of figuring all this stuff out with regard to that. And then how are they going to get it? How are you going to get it to them if they do order online? You're going to do a home pickup. Maybe you have a farm stand out. If I don't know, this time of year, I wouldn't think that's very popular in most of the states. Here, we're a little spoiled because we could do it here, maybe. But I don't know about in the middle of Detroit in the middle of winter,
Hmm.
so you guys got to figure out, what's the best way for you to do that. Do you want people to come to your house? I would say I would avoid that personally. Especially if this is new to you, you don't want a bunch of strangers just coming to your house, especially if you haven't collected money from them ahead of time.
Hmm.
Don't do that, by the way. I wouldn't be making anything unless I had the money in hand. I just wouldn't do it. It doesn't make
Hmm.
sense. And I know a
Hmm.
lot of people do. I just wouldn't do it. Don't, be a smart business person here because you don't want to do that with the risk that people aren't going to show up after you've spent time and energy and money and run into the store and get the goods and all of that and then not have them show up. So get the money first. And if they don't show up, too bad for them. So make sure that you've got kind of a plan in place for all of that. There's a lot of ways that you can market, and I think the first thing is just letting the world know that you are doing this. And the easiest way to do that these days is social media, even just to your private friends. Let them know that you're doing it. And if you want to go do the things at the schools, if you can show up and whatever, if they have events like baked good events or what, I don't know, whatever. My kids are all old now. I don't know what they do now. I know some of the schools don't even let you come in with baked goods anymore. If you're bringing food into schools, I don't know what the rules
Yeah, they
are, but
don't. You have to
yeah.
go buy the cupcakes. That's no
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah.
But yet in other states, they're letting you go and sell food from home and you don't have any laws and
Right.
things in place. But who knows? Um, so anyway, I think just the big thing is, and like Andrew mentioned, it's very important. I think there are a few states that allow you to ship your food across state lines, but most of them do not. Can you sell to local restaurants? Again, you might be able to. So you have to go check to see are there restaurants in town that will want you to do that, will allow you to do it. Well, first you got to check the laws, make sure it's legal. But if you can get into some of these sales channels, it's possible you might be able to. Again, just depending on your state, right? So,
Hmm.
have you
Another good
haven't
spot.
sold your soups to local stores?
I was
I
just
mean,
gonna,
yeah,
yeah, I was just gonna talk about that.
yeah.
So they don't allow you, so the stores, like there's some health stores here and there's some gift shops here. There are, you know how I think most people have like consignment stores where you rent out a space and you can like fill that space with all kinds of
Oh,
stuff,
yeah, yeah.
whether it be your crafts or whether it be antiques or whatever you're doing. And so we have a lot of those in my town, both in Prescott and in the town that I live in. And they all sell food like people's breads and cookies up front. So they
Hmm.
make it like a special section for the local bakers and stuff. And so they sell those within those consignment areas. They pay for so the individuals, the vendor, the producer is paying for space
Hmm.
inside the store and they're selling their goods within the store, which is another way to do it. And I have considered that, and I've done it in other options like Paint and Tree, which is a national chain. I didn't do as well there. I made more money being in person at shows than I
Hmm.
did having a permanent spot. And that's just me. I don't know if it was the whole dynamic of the thing. I don't really know. I made money every month. I paid my rent every month, but it wasn't enough for me to justify my time and
Yeah,
effort.
especially you had to come all the way down here to
Yeah,
Phoenix.
especially because it
Yeah.
wasn't up here where I
Yeah.
live in northern Arizona. So I live up near Sedona and Prescott. And to go down to Phoenix to have to fill that spot. Granted, I had to fill it because I was selling enough to justify the rent, which really wasn't even that much. But anyways, that's your choice. You know, there are a lot of places that'll let you do that. The grocery stores can't take you, but some restaurants can. It just depends on, again, back to the law thing. It depends on the law. And I believe what I understood was some of like there's a health food store here that takes people's local bakers and stuff.
Hmm.
It is also up to the store, if it's a local mom and pop store, to make that choice and whether they want to take that responsibility
Yeah.
on. And there's a contract that happens between the seller and the buyer.
Yeah. Some sort of
So,
contingent type thing where
yeah,
they
so
might
that they
make
know
something
who's
off of.
responsible if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So it can be done in our state. I don't know. So
Everywhere. Yeah.
another thing to check. So I do see that all the time in the different stores. I'm always, as much as I travel and do things, I'm always checking things out and like, oh, that's a great idea, you know.
Yeah.
And that's another way of just getting an idea of what you want to do and how you want to move forward with your business. Um, you know,
Yeah, I
versus.
mean, I go back to join as many Facebook groups as you
Mhm.
can because in those groups you'll see people that are doing stuff like this already, that are running, various different types of like what do I see? I see food trucks all the time, but that's a
Yeah.
kind of a different bird. But at the same time, it'll give you ideas of things that people are selling that are doing well. They wouldn't be out there schlepping it. I mean, if I didn't have anything else to do, I might get a food truck and go try to sell, muffins or whatever, but they would I might be baking them on site because they smell good and that's a marketing thing, right? So
Hmm.
kind of the way they did the mini donuts years ago because they sold well when we were at the right events with them because they smelled so delicious all over.
Hmm.
People love greasy dough. I mean, it was sugar on them, So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I think you just gotta get out there and see what's available to help you market it, because you might have, local stores, especially in a small town. I always find it so challenging where I live because everything's like it's so spread out and there's so much going on all the time. It's busy and
Hmm.
although it's good in a way because we have lots of crowds, but on the other hand, you know, it's hard to get noticed. I just
Yeah.
know that specifically in the real estate industry, it's hard to be an agent in our market because there's so many of us, but
Hmm.
it's the way it is. But and then I guess the last thing I want to hit on is that I see a lot with people talking about, oh, how do I charge? How do I, what am I charging? Let's make sure that you're not going in the hole with what you're
Hmm.
doing. You have to take into account not just the amount and the cost that's going into your ingredients, but of course, the time that you're putting into this, because like I think we brought it up a few episodes ago about I heard somebody said it took them 8 hours to make a cake. Well, it depends on if it's a wedding cake. I mean, if you're making a cake that's not going to get your money back after 8 hours of time, what is an hour of time? How much are you worth? And I think that's really key because the amount, like you're sitting here talking to me while which is great, and you're freeze drying stuff, which isn't really it's not a lot of work, but during that time while you were cutting up, vegetables, that takes time, right?
Hmm.
So add it all up and
Hmm.
make sure that you're not undercharging because you might find this may not be worth it for you if you can't get that's why I say don't get so many ingredients and make it easy for yourself. Start real simple, with some one or two really great items that are going to be popular and
Hmm.
that won't take you forever to make.
Yeah.
I keep telling everybody I'm trying to learn. I'm so frustrated. I'm still trying to learn the whole piping thing for the cupcakes to pipe and I'm still not 100% convinced this is for me. I'm still figuring it out. Um, and I'm struggling because I can't get the texture right on it. So
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go to England and have those English ladies teach me because that's all I watch of these videos
I'm
from the
also
English.
wondering, as you say that, I'm also wondering if it, well, I know there are people selling cupcakes where you are, but it could have something to do with the temperature and things like that
Oh, it's
too.
totally
So,
temperature related, but I also think it's ingredient related with regard to how, like for instance, I was just telling Andrew before we got on here, I was trying to do the real butter now that it's cooled off, and it was beautiful when I started putting it into the piping bag, but as soon as it hit the cupcake, it just slid right off, and I don't know what it was. Full blown buttercream, American buttercream, the way that I've been taught to make it, but I suspect in a way that it could be poor quality butter because I don't think going
mhm.
to Costco and buying the cheap butter there is going to be the way to do it. You're going to have to spend some money on decent butter. And again, for those of you who are bakers out there, you're probably laughing at me right now because you probably know the answer. But I'm learning and I'm watching all this and I do hear, but then I see people putting the cheap Costco butter into their thing and
Yeah.
it's
So you're
working
like, what the
fine.
heck?
So what am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? I can't get it right.
Anybody
Um,
knows, please leave the notes in the comment. We'd appreciate it.
oh my
My
God, yeah,
sister
it would be nice
been,
to hear from somebody because I'm struggling. But again, I do wonder, and the temperature wise, of course, the last time I did this, my daughter, well, we're having another wedding, and so I went to or not a baby shower, but the wedding shower, and it was 88 that day. I can't get away from it. It was just 2 weeks ago. It was still hot. So
yeah.
could have been that, but I'm still working on it. I just want it to be like every time dead on gonna work, and I have to just keep working on it. Some of it, you know, I'm still working on it anyway. I could go on for hours about it because it's frustrating me. But bottom line is, come up with something that's going to be easy for you because the amount of time I put into those cupcakes for what everything else I was doing, I can put I put the charcuterie, I rolled up 500 skewers and only like by myself in only a few hours. And
Hmm.
but then it took me all damn day to figure out how to frost these damn cupcakes. And so in the end it wasn't worth the time. So
Yeah.
you have to decide. And then don't frustrate yourself. It's supposed to be fun. You're it's supposed to be fun, even though, it's money and you are working, but it still should be fun. You should be enjoying it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you should be enjoying it. If you're not, then maybe you should find something else to do. But anyway, and then the last thing I wanted to hit on was the whole thing about taxes. We can't give you advice on that, but and how to set your business up, LLCs, sole practitioner. What are you doing with all of that? You really have to go get advice from a CPA, from a lawyer. Do your research on what's going to be best for you in your area. In Arizona, we have this thing called the TPT, the transaction privilege tax, which actually has to be is charged to the seller, but not in every case. And so, depending on what you're selling, but you have to look this stuff up or go get some legal advice on it. So when you see these people in the groups asking questions to lay people, and then you see 10 zillion answers and they're all over the board, that is not the best way to get advice when it
Hmm.
comes to things that can get you in legal trouble and financial issue trouble. So please do your research with the right, resources, not going to a Facebook group and asking people about the TPT tax or whatever your sales tax is. But with regard to that, I don't think you need to be charging extra for tax. Just roll it into the price,
Hmm.
and we've talked about that before. Make your life easier, figure out what it's going to cost, how much time you've invested, what the cost is for your products or the ingredients, and then roll that into the price instead of tacking on, prices, or you're now charging somebody extra because of the kind of website that you have, because the website is going to take money from you because you're getting a quote unquote free website, but the charge to pay them for that site is getting passed on to the purchaser. That does not sound like a good idea. And there are companies out there, so you have to understand you're going to be paying fees for having a credit card service, which is usually less than 3% of what the price of your item is. But we all do, if you want to take credit cards or debit cards, it's gonna cost you to have that service. So don't whine about that part, but I wouldn't be passing the cost of a website onto, my people. I just
Yeah.
find the right service, like we can help you with all of that. And then also help you with all the marketing side of it between the posting and just everything, because we teach you all this stuff. So anyway, check that out at grazingbiz.com and join our free groups, right? Our free group in Facebook, which by the way is the Charcuterie and Cottage Biz Success Group. So go look that up. And I don't know. Good luck this weekend. Hope you make your 5 grand. And if not, you know
Yeah,
what? You're going to come out of it ahead. I know
I
that.
will. I'll come out of it ahead, even if it isn't, the 5 grand. I always kind of overshoot, just because that's just what I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be positive for
I
sure.
have to have a goal. And so with that being said, I make what would be $5,000 worth of stuff if I was to sell every single thing on my table. So
Hmm.
that's how I know how much I want to bring with me. I know everybody struggles with that too, but after time you get used to it. You just kind of know, and then you kind of do this whole, well, if I run out, I run out kind of thing. If I
And I
run
think
out of
there's
one of these
nothing
soups, then
wrong with
great,
that.
I'm out. I'm sold out.
There's nothing
So,
wrong with that. And in fact,
mm-mm,
I like the
it's
idea of
okay.
having lines. I like the idea of having a sign that says sold out. That
Yeah.
means people are looking at it, and next time they see you, they're going to go, wow, I got to jump on
Hmm.
that, whatever it is. So there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that at all.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, also happy birthday to you,
Oh,
you old
yeah.
lady, you. Now you're not quite as old as me, but she just had a birthday. Happy
And I
birthday!
never will be. How about that?
I know you never will be. That is true. There's a lot to be said about that. You won't be.
Yeah, I had my birthday a few
You're
days
5 years
ago.
behind me, girlfriend. So
Hmm.
yeah, but that's okay. I still love you anyway.
Oh, thanks.
Gonna catch up with me. And the good part about her being at the market, she's gonna be down here this weekend, so I
Yeah.
get to spend some time together and hang out
Yeah.
with our mama.
I'm ready
So
to warm up. It was kind of cold in Idaho. So we went
yeah.
from San Diego, I went from San Diego, just gorgeous 70-degree weather, to Idaho being like 20 every day. It was cold,
Yikes.
but
Yeah, no.
worth
Well,
it.
I mean, even just here, it's been in the high 50s in the evening, and
Yeah.
I've been freezing my butt off. So, yeah, I know we're complaining. I know some of you in the here
I know.
probably.
So those poor people in the Midwest, oh Lord. I was like
Yikes.
looking at their temperature today. So
Mm,
we're filming this on what, December 3rd, and
yeah.
it looked like minus
Was it?
temperatures in
Yeah.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois. Yuck.
Yeah, I did see they were getting snow. So, but I mean, there's nothing. That's what you live there
So,
for. I think
when
people love it.
you chose to live there, people.
Yeah. I chose to live here in 110-degree heat in the summer.
Yeah,
I can complain, but
right,
there's a reason I'm here.
right.
All right. Well, I hope everyone's
All
having a
right.
great holiday season. We will definitely try to get on here at least 2 more times before the Christmas gets here.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll talk about gifting and stuff over the next, just creating some gift ideas,
Yeah.
because you're probably getting close to not being able to sell anymore,
Yeah.
but between now, or at least plan to show up for markets, but you certainly can plan some gift ideas. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about other kind of gift ideas between food and non-food items, because I can like my crafts and I like my crafts.
Yeah,
But
we do.
anyway, all right, everyone.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Tell everybody you know about us. We'd love to let the world more people know that we're here. So
Yeah.
have a great season so far. We'll see you next time. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.